WDBJ7 starts with breaking news now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalie Fons. Jean Jadhan has the night off. We begin with breaking news. Within the last half hour, federal regulators authorized the Mountain Valley Pipeline to enter service. The project has been in the works for about a decade. The natural gas pipeline stretches hundreds of miles and has faced numerous delays, protests, and legal battles. WDBJ7 senior reporter Joe DeShiel is live in the studio for us and has covered this project over the years. So, Joe, what do we know now?
Well, Natalie, yesterday the company said it had completed welding and testing and had satisfied all aspects of a consent order with the Federal Pipeline Safety Agency. Late this afternoon, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission posted a letter authorizing the project to begin service. Now, earlier today, we spoke with opponents who argued that safety has taken a backseat in the rush to bring the project online. Heavy equipment was on the move from an area on Bent Mountain where the work appeared to be complete. At the same time, opponents of the project were asking the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to deny MVP's request for authorization to enter service. They were calling for more transparency on testing and a more thorough review to make sure the pipeline is safe.
We have significant safety concerns for the public throughout the 300 miles of this pipeline. We have never before put in service a 42-inch gas pipeline with the steep slopes, but not just that, the percentage of extremely steep slopes.
Now, MVP has said repeatedly that safety is its highest priority, and in another filing this afternoon, an official with FERC said the Pipeline Safety Administration had no objection if FERC were to grant authorization for MVP to enter service. Natalie, we haven't heard from the pipeline company since this FERC decision, but it would appear that the start of pipeline operations is imminent.
A decade about in the making. All right, Joe DeShiel, thank you.